All right. Just a question. Do we have Haya?
No, not yet. So we have just
Okay.
Hassa,
I'm here.
Haytham, and Rami.
Oh, Haya is here. All right.
Hi.
Perfect.
So Haya,
Great.
would you
Hello,
like to
I'm
go?
here, by the way.
Hi.
Perfect.
Haya, so would you like to go to have your video on? So our guests, would you please all have your videos off and mute yourselves, because this would affect the session as well as the internet connection and the Zoom as well. Haya is here, so while she's ready to have her video on, would you like to start, Khansa?
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our panelists for joining us, and thank you to our audience for joining us. Due to technical difficulties, I'm unable to turn on my video, but nonetheless, thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to engaging with you, and we look forward to answering your questions. Today, we're going to discuss a very important topic, which is youth and entrepreneurship, particularly the impact that youth have had in becoming a part of today's economic systems in Qatar, and the movement that has started with youth empowering themselves, but also those around them. So thank you to our panelists for joining us. Before we proceed any further, we will have Mike from the US Embassy give us a few remarks. Mike, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Hansa. Welcome to our panelists and everyone in our audience. Today's discussion, Building Capacity, Breaking Barriers, Exploring the Potential of Youth Entrepreneurship, could not be more timely. As the world confronts the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, youth are at the forefront of finding solutions to the many challenges we face in overcoming the economic and societal fallout of the crisis. The pandemic has been incredibly difficult for everyone, but one segment has been too often overlooked, and that is youth. Around the world, youth have had their once-in-a-lifetime educational and emerging career experiences turned completely upside down. Sadly, youth have been targeted for criticism as they vocalize their frustrations about the pandemic's effects on their lives. Many of the life experiences they've lost out on cannot be replicated at a later date. In a February 2021 piece, the New York Times highlighted the high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts among youth during the pandemic. So today's discussion becomes even more relevant. We need to hear youth. We want to know what your ideas for innovation and transformation are. We need to amplify your voices because you are the group whose penchant for innovation and resilience will take the world forward as we chart a course for a post-pandemic future. And what better way to start a dialogue than to focus on youth entrepreneurship? In the United States and Qatar, youth entrepreneurs are leading the way with innovative ideas to improve the lives of many through the diversification and enhancement of our country's economies. For many years, the US Department of State has been a strong supporter of youth empowerment. In 2017, we released the publication Startup Smart, a handbook for entrepreneurs, to help aspiring entrepreneurs develop a mindset and the skills to evaluate their business ideas. It also helps them to become comfortable with the idea of business risk and how to minimize it where possible. We would be happy to share this publication with those who are interested after today's session. This year, our Young African Leaders Initiative celebrated its 10-year anniversary. This initiative invests in the next generation of African leaders to support them as they spur growth and prosperity, strengthen democratic governance, and enhance peace and security across sub-Saharan Africa. Additional programs such as the Young Leaders of the Americas Initiative, the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, and the Young Transatlantic Innovation Leaders Initiative aim to strengthen youth leadership and entrepreneurship. Other important initiatives such as Tech Girls, Tech Camp, Tech Women function as additional platforms through which the State Department fosters economic prosperity by supporting emerging technological innovators. Here at our embassy, we are pleased to manage internship programs with the Georgetown University and Northwestern University campuses located in Qatar. Our goal is to equip students with relevant skills and professional experience so that as they seek to become part of the workforce, they will be competitive among their peers when entering the job market. Today, we welcome the opportunity to learn more about what emerging youth entrepreneurs are doing in Qatar to innovate, expand the private sector, and generate greater employment opportunities. We appreciate Hansa's efforts in facilitating today's panel and look forward to the discussion ahead. With that, over to you, Hansa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Without further ado, let's introduce the stars of today's show, which is our panelists. Our first panelist for today is Hassa, who just graduated from Georgetown and has a brand by the name of Alti. Our second panelist for today is Hitham from Mudaris. Our third panelist for today is Haya from Desultree. And our fourth panelist for today is Rami from Monaco. Thank you to all of you for joining me. And I know that there's so much I could say about your introductions and about where you're from and about all that you've accomplished. But I want you to tell us about your story and the background of your businesses and the background of your ideas. So Hassa, we'll begin with you. Can you tell us a little about the background of your business? How did you get started? Tell us a little about yourself, about your story, and about what you hope to accomplish.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me on this panel discussion. So the business that I manage is alongside my sister. It's actually her main idea. It's called التي, and it's a Greek word for a person who heals. And the whole idea behind the business was to try to encourage the local Qatari community and making the conscious decision and adopting a sustainable and environmentally friendly lifestyle, and sort of a healing lifestyle, not only for the environment, but for ourselves as well. So we started along with 100% cotton tote bags, which are completely customizable. We also then proceeded to go on to summer bags, which are a mixture of cotton and jute, and they're all completely sustainable. And then we moved on to other things which we saw were trending at the moment, such as handmade ceramic mugs. And I think the main thing that we wanted to do was focus on introducing a healing kind of lifestyle with the local community in Doha, and it comes to the affirmation cards for kids, which I have right here. Decided to show you guys. Yeah, so my sister is a mother of two, and she kind of saw that there was a gap in the community when it comes to talking about how we're supposed to deal with children, raising children, speaking, like having children speak about their own emotions, etc. Because in the Khariji region of the world, it's kind of taboo to talk about any mental health issues or anything going on. So I think we saw that there needs to be a kind of awareness happening, and that's when we decided to go to and create affirmation cards for kids, and they come in English and in Arabic. So this is kind of the whole reason why we started this brand. It's to allow people in the community to make the conscious decision to decide to either heal themselves or heal the environment, whether it's through our products such as the cotton tote bags or through the affirmation cards for kids. We are planning to release affirmation cards for adults. We're working on that, but we thought that for the kids, it would have been a good first step. So yeah.
Wow, I look forward to your affirmation cards for adults. So I will definitely keeping an eye out for that. But honestly, I love the fact that your focus is on healing the community, and not just one angle of it, not just the earth and what is around us, but also what is within us, and sort of making sure that we are the ones who start this change, whether this is within our children or whether this is within the products we use or the bags that we carry every single day. Our next panelist is also somebody who's working for children, who's working for education. Haytham, the floor is yours. Can you tell us a little about your story? How did you get started? And what brought you here?
Hello, Khansa, thank you very much for having me. So my name is Haytham Al-Haidari. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mudarris. Mudarris is a smart marketplace for students to find tutors, whether it's to their home or online. Any student can find any tutor for any subject at any time. Started Mudarris late 2015 as a very small project with my wife. We didn't mean it, to be a company or, an international company or whatever it is today. It's just, we wanted something on the side, like kind of a side income. And then it grew to be a company in 2018, where we, received investment and we started hiring staff. And today we're an international company. We're available all over the MENA region, with over 24,000 registered tutors. When I started, I was a part of a solution for a problem that was huge, but there wasn't the solution I was part of. I was a tutor, but that wasn't a big solution for the problem. The problem was huge and it needed as big of a solution as the problem. And so the idea was to create a very simple, basic platform where I can connect myself and a few of my friends to, as tutors to those who need help in Doha. And the traction on it was huge and fast, and obviously was the solution that the market needed. Then we had to grow as people in the the executive panel of the whole company to know more about tech, about computer science, about business, and learn throughout the journey and create something with innovative solutions that can help a lot of people. And a lot of things that helped on the way. Mudarris wasn't our first business, but definitely everything that was before gave us the skills required to start it. And then we had to keep up with the growth to make sure that we can create a great company with great value to everyone who's using Mudarris today.
Thank you so much for describing that. Something that I particularly loved about what you just said is your focus on learning and your focus on growing and understanding what worked and what didn't work, and then realizing what you needed to do to bridge those gaps. Our next panelist is also somebody who's trying to change the current landscape of looking at fashion within the Middle East. So, Haya, can you tell us a little about your journey? How did you get started? Why did you decide to pursue this idea, and where do you think it's taking you?
Hi, so my name is Haya. I'm the founder of the fashion label Desultory. And basically, I started it like a year and a half ago. And the sole purpose was to create a Qatari brand that reflects the cultural sentiments as well as the individual sentiment of our like artistic expression and our stream of consciousness. And also another big point that our brand advocates for is gender and size inclusivity. All of our clothing is completely inclusive for both for any genders, and there's many different sizes of various range. So I think that creating a brand that is that has a core ethos that surrounds the cultural sentiment as well as this sort of inclusive ethos is something that's very important and something that is lacking in the country. So that's why I wanted to start a fashion label. And at the moment, we are basically located here, and we're located in Kuwait and in London, and hopefully we can expand and get Desultory on a international level and to advocate for Qatari fashion and Qatari fashion designers. Thank you.
The two things that I love the most about your work is that you're not only sort of supporting local fashion, but you're also doing it while promoting inclusivity, while thinking about the different kind of women who might want to come to your shops, who might want to, see themselves represented in this industry. So thank you for being inclusive and thinking about all cross sections of society. Our next project is also related to inclusion and particularly close to my heart. Rami, can you tell us a little about your journey? What is the product you guys are making? Why is it necessary? And how did you get started?
Yeah, of course. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Rami Solomon, and I'm the co-founder of Bonico. And the way we started Bonico was basically back in university. So myself and my co-founder, Abdrazit, were studying in Qatar University, and he had a car accident. And so, and he broke his hand, and he had to join the special needs center at the university. So it was just a semester where we used to spend a lot of time at the center, and we got to, just kind of like meet the people who also used to go to center. So some of those were like our fellow blind students who were studying things, like ranging from law to like education to like literature. And we would just like have these conversations about like technology, about like what they use and like studying and stuff. And back then, while we used to complain about, how much studying we had and always like complaining about the amount of projects and things we had to do, their complaints were different. And that was a surprise to us. They complained about how hard it was to get access to their study material. So they used to actually go to the centers. They used to have volunteer specific things that they wanted to study into like an accessible format, and then they would be able to actually go through it and study it. And like just from that, it was our engineering background kicked in, so we saw a problem and we just had to find a way to solve it. We started like looking further into like the kind of solutions that were available to blind people. We tried, like having other conversations with people, like whether it was other conversations with the same students or like other people in Qatar. And it was like a learning experience for us. We hadn't met that many blind people like growing up. And we also saw a problem in that they were so segregated to the point that, us as like 19, 21-year-old college students did not know about this problem, like growing up. And so we started working on Bonico. Bonico is basically an assistive technology platform for blind people. So it involves a small hardware device that I have right here. So this is what the device looks like. It has a braille cell, and we connect it to like our smart devices, like our smartphones or tablets. And it basically gives them access to applications that we create. And the applications are under 3 different categories. So they can be like productivity applications where you get stuff done, whether in like your daily life or at work. They can be education applications, like focused on teaching them braille or teaching them other things in different ways to give them kind of like new meaning to like tables and hierarchical content and stuff. And the most exciting thing, at least the one that I'm most excited about, is games. So we give them access to like games that they can play on their smart devices. And the most important thing is that all of our applications are focused on not segregating the blind community. So we create the visual aspects as well as the interface that they will use through our device. And they could basically play the game with someone, their friend or colleague or their family who are sighted, and they can share the content that they're consuming, and that's basically what Bonico is.
Well, Rami, I can tell you, I'm really excited to get my hands on this device and begin playing video games. My friends better watch out. As an entrepreneur, I know you have to take many risks. And I know there are a lot of times that you think about abandoning what you're doing, think about how much you own, what you own, and where your business will lead to. So how do you take risks as an entrepreneur? What kind of risks do you have to take? And how do you sort of get the courage to do this is our next question for our panelists. Because I know whenever we're deciding about whether we want to become an entrepreneur, start our own business, I know I've thought about many ideas at multiple points and then discarded them because I just felt like maybe I wouldn't be able to do them or that the risk was too big. So can you tell us, Hassa, a little about how you started taking this risk and what made it worth it for you?
Definitely. I think when you first start out with a business, there's always the thought in the back of your head that, am I going to fail? Is this like, are people buying it because they actually like it or because they're my friends and they just want to support me? And I think in terms with our business, so the first product we released were the cotton tote bags. And at that time, it wasn't a niche in the market. A lot of people had released tote bags that like they can draw on, they can fully customize and everything. But I think what made our brand stand out was our entire idea of being sustainable, and that like this is the first step that you're going to take to leading an eco-friendly lifestyle and a type of thinking that, you know, you're going to make a change, whether it's as small as a cotton tote bag. And I think so like our main success, of course, came from our friends supporting us. But as we, as our friends, you know, held the bags elsewhere, other people started asking. And I think you have to take risks when it comes to business because, of course, there are times where you're going to feel like you failed. But at the same time, it has to happen for you to push through. You know what I mean? No one succeeds overnight. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of failed ideas. And I think the thing with us, with me and my sister, is that we were doing all of this on our own. So we had no knowledge of where we could get these tote bags, if we were going to draw on them or if we were going to have an actual artist help us. But thank God my sister is creative because she took the whole artistic side. But yeah, alhamdulillah, it all came down to like perseverance and pushing through. And ultimately, we did start gaining a following. And I think joining in on like pop-up shops such as Turba, we had the great opportunity and being a vendor there. So it got us even more exposure. Even though people sometimes were not buying, they were still learning about our brand and kind of being like, wow, like this is the first time we hear about a sustainable brand that like promotes eco-friendly products, whether it's whether it was with our affirmation cards or with our tote bags. So I think it all takes time. It takes kind of a good support system, and of course there's going to be the fear of failure. But you know, look at every other successful person out there. You know, like you have to push through. So I think one of the main things was just, you know, setting your eye on the prize and just going for it.
You know, it's fascinating that you just went ahead and pushed ahead because you believed in a cause. And what makes it even better somehow is the fact that you guys were two women who started this on your own. And mashallah, like you guys are so successful now and you guys are doing so well. And I think it's so inspiring for people who are listening to this, for people who are, you know, hesitating while they plan to take this step. Our next panelist also mentioned that he learned about how some plans fail and others succeed, but ultimately it's up to you to understand what the market needs and build up on that. So Haytham, can you tell us a little about that process, especially when you were taking risks, when you were just you know, out of university, planning for yourself and your family, how you wanted to take it further?
Yeah, that's funny because when I decided to take the risk, I never told my family, you know. I know there's going to be peer pressure to put me back. I think it comes down to the way I see it of an entrepreneur, right? Although a big part of an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship can be taught, and trained. I think an entrepreneur is something someone is, not someone becomes. I think people are born entrepreneurs or not, and then people can learn on top of that. And the reason I say that is that there are some intrinsic characteristics in someone that help them become, an entrepreneur in general. One of them is taking risks, right? Taking risks in general, I think it's a part of a person that is not necessarily taught. And to be an entrepreneur is when you can take risks that seem unreasonable to most. This is when you build, big things. There are things, for example, you would find an entrepreneur usually has obsession, and at least the good part of the obsession and the persistence that Hassa was talking about. Was it Hassa? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she was talking about, and that comes from the stubbornness that you have, right? Like you cannot be taught stubbornness, but sometimes that kind of stubbornness that you have and the unreasonable risks that you take and the obsession that you have behind the idea and the thing that you build. This is why you keep coming up every day, even if it's failing, you're still at it and you're still trying. That's, an interesting, beautiful, weird combination that makes an entrepreneur what he or she is, and like for us, for example, Yasmin and I, my wife, when we took Mudarris full-time, we literally, I quit, and then I got into another business that failed, and then I literally had 1 month worth of rent in my bank account, and that's it. And we had a month. We either make it or break it. We make it with Mudarris or we're homeless the month after. And that was huge risk that we took, but because we knew that if you had just plan A, we had no plan B, we'll put 100% of the effort in it. And we would, eventually succeed. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I'm glad you aren't homeless now. There's nothing like the fear of being homeless that motivates you. Haya, can you tell us a little more about the kind of risks you had to take and what motivated you? I mean, your brand is in 3 countries all across the world and going to more places. So tell us a little more about your process of taking risks, especially because you started last year. You were in university, you were doing all these other things. So what motivated you to do this and take this huge risk?
So the biggest risk, to be honest, for my brand, gaining a following, because with a fashion brand, it's all about reliability with your customers. And it was more so a question, like, as a customer, like, why would I invest my money in this brand? Like, what do they have to offer? Like, a brand name is something that you build, and you have to build trust with your customers in terms of quality, in terms of consistency. So that was the biggest risk, was gaining that reliability and that sense of trust with people. And after like the first collection and the second collection, like I would get comments like, oh, this quality is really good, or I really love your design. So, and then it would be passed on slowly. So that was the biggest, that was the scariest part of it. And another big factor was personally, like I did not really know initially how a business is created and all the logistical and all the technicalities. That was a very big risk for me, because it's something that you don't just invest your time in, you invest all of your efforts, and there is no backing out once you start. And learning about importing and exporting and all of these logistical technicalities is something that was a very big risk, because I had no prior knowledge. And the more that I started to delve into it, was basically, it made it easier and more easier for me to understand. And like it becomes smoother and more swift. So I think, yeah, the biggest risk is basically brand reliability and logistical stuff. Thank you.
I can't even imagine how much you learned and how quickly you learned it, to be able to make your business span 3 countries. This is so amazing, because as you mentioned, you learned it all yourself, and you learned it while doing a bunch of other things, studying, doing all these clubs and activities in university, and the pandemic that we were all living through. So wow, I'm in awe. Rami, can you tell us a little more about the kind of risks you had to take and what motivated you to do that? Especially because you just mentioned you were developing this product for blind people, and you didn't really know a lot of them. What motivated you to take this risk? How did you end up, overcoming these obstacles?
Yeah, of course. So like starting out, like I mentioned previously, we had to talk to like so many people just to validate our idea, just to get their feedback, hear from like our potential customers, listen to like their problems, and decide on like what we're gonna do based on that. So unlike Haytham, for example, who did not mention to his family, I actually went around telling everybody, and everybody pretty much told me not to do it. So it was, for me, it was a choice of basically quitting my full-time job and committing 100% to Bonico. And my co-founder, Abdurazit, had already turned down very good opportunities as well. So it was basically a point like where I just had to make a decision. Either like we go ahead with, I quit my full time, I dedicate myself fully to Bonico, and we actually take Bonico from the point where it was, where we were doing it as a side project kind of thing, where, after work, we would just meet up with people and stuff, to actually like dedicating our full time, because it was a big project. We were still learning, it was something that we weren't, well versed in. So we definitely had to like dedicate more time to, in order to develop something that was well worth it. So it was definitely the feedback from the customers, listening to them, hearing that they, this is something that they actually want, they actually would like to have, listening to their complaints, and actually like having these discussions between myself and Abdurazit, where we go like, have these epiphanies, and we think about solutions to like the problems that we just heard someone tell us. And it was just something that we both had the passion to do. We both skipped out on like good opportunities in terms of like professional, corporate life, and we just had to take the risks in order to, make it alive. Otherwise, we probably would have like just skipped out on creating the entire thing itself. So I definitely think it was, in my case, it wasn't really a calculated risk. It was, more of like a foolish risk. But looking back, I definitely don't regret it. Making what we're making is definitely worth it, in my opinion.
Well, I can definitely tell you it was worth it, and I'm glad you did it. Hassa, can you tell us a little more about some of the lessons you learned throughout your journey, and what were perhaps some of the most important things you ended up doing?
Sorry, you are muted, Hassa.
Oh, sorry. I think the most important thing that we learned was kind of, as I've mentioned, doing stuff on our own. So we had to go out and ask people, and ask a lot of factories in Doha if they could. So, for example, with our affirmation cards, they come in a box, and they're cards that are like kind of a laminated material, and it's not like we know how to print cards and do all of these things. So we had to go out and find someone who could make our idea reality. And another thing would be, so just as I've mentioned, it's just me and my sister, and we do have an online website. So it was kind of managing an online website. Like we don't know how to do these things. We had to do coding and everything just to figure out if this picture would look good on this site of the website, or if we could add a button right here. And another thing was getting an online payment system. So that was another obstacle. So there are a lot of things that come in starting a business that I don't think everyone realizes. It's gonna like these obstacles are gonna come along. You don't even think about it in the first, like in the initial idea. You're just like, oh, I have an idea, I want to make it happen, but like how? You know, you have to do all of these steps. And also running an Instagram page, it was very, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, it's very difficult to run an Instagram page that's constantly on trend. You have to keep replying to customers, especially if you're, you know, a working mom and then you have a university student. So I think going through all of these obstacles really opened up our eyes into realizing that it's not just an idea and you can make it happen. You have to go through 100 different like factories to talk to, and we even thought we have to talk to people abroad to try to make this happen, because sometimes they're like the people in Doha could not, you know, make our ideas reality. And it's especially difficult when you have one specific thing in mind and you want that to happen. So I think those are all obstacles we face. And I think people take it lightly when someone says, oh, I want to start a business. They're like, oh yeah, just open up an Instagram and you'll get like 100 followers, you can sponsor a post. It's not that easy. You have to like get commercial registration and do all of these paperwork, and people don't tell you that. They don't show you that side. They just show you, oh, we gained I don't know how many followers, or we're participating in this event that we can sell our things in. So I think for you to realize these obstacles, you have to, you know, you have to go through them. You can't just hear about them from someone else. And just as like everyone else on this panel, there's a lot of different obstacles that you can go through, no matter the business. So I think it's all a bunch of trial and error, and these were some of the obstacles we faced, and alhamdulillah we got through them, because you know you have to get it done, especially if you're very passionate about what you want to do.
Thank you so much for describing your journey and giving a realistic glimpse into this world, and telling us how much work goes into maintaining that Instagram, on maintaining that website and everything else. So, you know, everyone watching this and listening to this later on can get a realistic idea of what they might need to do. Haytham, can you tell us a little about your journey and the kind of sort of obstacles you had to face, and what did you learn from them?
Well, Khansa, if I tell you the obstacles and the lessons, I don't think I'm gonna finish. So I'm gonna try to kind of I don't think anybody was like build something, you know, it's just too many things. But to me, the bigger concept is, if you have an idea that works, the one factor that will make it fail is you, right? Like if you do the business or the idea can merge together and grow very, very fast. If you don't grow as fast as the idea, you know, as a person, as a leader, as a manager, then you will be the reason this idea fails or this business fails. And so you need to be able to make sure, not just you, the whole team, that if the business is big, if you were dealing with 10 people, suddenly you're dealing with 10,000 people, that you were able to deal with that. You're able to deal with these problems. You're able to deal with changes that happen. And if you're not, you have to get a structured way and the right people to help you with that growth. And so you need to always remember that you have to make sure that you grow with the business and not let the business outgrow you. You find a lot of businesses that have, you know, a lot of investors, for example. Once the business outgrows the CEO, the investors change the CEO, and that's why exactly, you know. And so you know, we grew very fast from, you know, a few people dealing with, you know, I don't know, it was like $100 to $200 a month in marketing. Suddenly we're talking with investors, you know, in millions, and we're managing millions of you know, dollars and paying ungodly amounts into marketing and acquisition and you know, hiring people and learning how to find the right people for it. And you know, you sit in a meeting room and you're like, okay, I'm meeting someone who's overqualified, like more qualified than me, and I'm doing this interview. So how can I make sure that we get into an environment where we both grow, right? Not somebody will hold back the other person. And so realizing that you don't know everything, and you will never ever know everything, and you have to grow as much as the business, keeps you competent, and keeps you ready for any changes and adaptation. And that's what made us navigate this pandemic very well. And so I think that's the biggest lesson, to make sure that you grow as fast as the business with anything, and learn everything as much as possible, so you can be the reason the business grows, not the reason the business fails.
I cannot imagine what that might have felt like for you to, find people who you felt were a lot more qualified, but then finding the strength within yourself to be able to focus on your growth, and to be able to focus on your idea and the passion that you brought that idea with. So thank you for describing a little bit of that process for us and the audience. Haya, can you tell us a little about your obstacles and what you learned from them?
So basically, I think that the biggest obstacle is the initial paperwork and all of that. That's something that is, like, as Hassa said, it's something that you go through and you're not aware of how difficult and strenuous it is, but it really is. It takes so much time, and the thing is, you don't really know how to get through it, but you just have to do it. And it's a continuous process of finding new paperwork, and there are new logistical problems that you have to deal with in terms of customs, in terms of financial, or any of that. And also with a fashion brand, I think it's this like compromise of creativity, because you really need to listen to people. Like, what do they want? What do they want to wear? What do they not want to wear? What type of message are you sending? What type of message is being reciprocated? And that's something that's very difficult, to be able to listen to people. Because, for example, I could be creating an item, I don't know, a cap or a shirt or something, and it might not sell well because the message might not reciprocate as strongly as I thought I would like it to initially. So it really is listening to the community and listening to the local community in terms of what creative standard and what creative vision they would want to see reflected within the brand and within the clothing. So I think that was a very big obstacle, because it didn't allow me to have full creativity, in the sense that some things that I like, I couldn't make because not everyone would like that. So it really is a compromise in terms of creativity. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm really getting is that you got to focus on your market, on those consumers who you hope will buy your products, and sort of build up your brand's loyalty by understanding their preferences and creating products that they like. Rami, can you tell us a little about the kind of risks you had to take? What did you learn from them? And where did that take you?
Yeah, of course. So I think every other panelist has already made amazing remarks on like the type of obstacles people have to go through. Registration, financials, all of these things are definitely, overhead that you have to deal with, like when running your company in general. But honestly, like Haytham mentioned, like if we go through the number of things that we've learned, I think it would take quite some time, because honestly, like we're still till today, we're learning stuff every day. So for example, our product involves like a hardware, a product as well as software. So we had to deal with like assembling electronics, choosing different types of electronics and capacitors and like resistors and different kind of things, and like reading bill of materials full of like different electronics with different serial numbers and stuff. And at the same time, we had to learn how to talk to manufacturers, we had to learn how to navigate, like the space of actually creating a physical product. And at the same time, we had to learn all the other things that have to do like with creating software, with how our customers will use, the different solutions that we create. And actually, like, I think this is a very good place to talk about one of the main things that we had that was like a pretty significant obstacle to us, which is that our company is registered both in Doha and in the US. And, both myself and Abdulrazak were, almost at least born and raised in Doha. So we've never really dealt with taxes. And so after like the first year that our company was registered in the US, we had to deal with, filing our financials and filing our taxes and stuff. And that was just like, it was a different language. And so what we did is basically we decided that I will be taking a course in accounting in order to just be able to like create the different documents that we had to do in order to like get through our taxes and stuff. And it was just something that we did, like we decided overnight. Over the next week, I was like looking into the course and doing it across like everything else that we were doing. And that's basically how we got through with it. So, you see different problems throughout your journey in general, and you just have to like implement solutions to fix them and just go ahead with it as fast as you can.
That really shows a lot of perseverance for you to figure out ways to work around different systems that you possibly knew nothing about, and sort of learning on a grassroots level what you could do and why you wanted to do it and all of that. But I have so many more questions for our panelists, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Before I give our audience an opportunity to ask their questions, I will ask one last question, and I probably shouldn't be. My question for our panelists is, what was the kind of support you got, perhaps from organizations or around Doha, or perhaps from those around you, just in terms of people or organizations that anyone viewing this who wants to start their own business could reach out to, or places they might look at? Hatta?
So I feel like with everyone, of course, the first support system is going to be family and friends. That's like a no-brainer. But for young entrepreneurs, I feel like when it comes to like crafting, accessories, whether it's food or cafes, I think Turba Farmers Market, the one hosted by Qatar Foundation, it's a very good first step into introducing your business into the community, because it's a very well-rounded farmers market that includes a lot of home businesses, and it's a very good platform to put your business onto. And I think that was where we first debuted for the first time. So I think that's a really good platform as well. And I honestly think it's about finding like markets or local shops that share your vision and share your idea as well. And I think that's the thing that we also struggled with, is finding platforms that would support us and that would understand what we're trying to achieve. And I think with Turba, we got really lucky, because Turba is all about sustainability. It's all about, no plastic. Even the bottles handed out by the cafes there have to be glass bottles, or they have to be paper cups. Everything has to be completely eco-friendly. And I think we really got lucky with that one, because, when we applied, it was exactly what they were looking for. But I definitely think for young entrepreneurs, they have to look for a place that ultimately shares their goal and their vision as well, because they're more likely and they're more inclined to accept you as a business if they share, the vision that you're sharing. And I also think that Instagram is also a great way to kind of push your business, and you can always market your posts, you can market your stories, and tailor them to like the age group that you're targeting, or the type of hashtags that you're targeting. So I think there's a lot of, we're lucky in Doha because we have a lot of opportunities where we can debut our businesses in. It's all about finding the right, like the right space, the right place that will, it's going to accept you. So
that is excellent advice. So folks, keep an eye out for the right space, for a community who is willing to encourage you and who's willing to support you with whatever you need. Haytham, can we quickly have your advice?
I mean, right now, today, there is honestly a lot of support for startups. In the past few years, the environment in general grew a lot. So if you're a new startup, you will probably find a lot of places to help you incubate. You'll probably find some grants. So there are some investors now that are more aware that they can help you. And obviously, the more you grow, then there are other places that would be looking into supporting you. So then you grow into bigger, higher tier investors to governmental levels where they can either support you by doing business with you or by sponsoring you or whatever it is. And I think the biggest supporters at the end of the day is going to be your clients, our people, our community, the users that's used Mudarris from day one and still using Mudarris, whether they're tutors, they're students, everybody who's involved in the community. We create value for them so they stick around, and without them we don't have any value. That's a lot. We got a lot of side support, and people can get that, but the people that you create that value for will be your biggest supporters and biggest fans always.
So really make sure to keep your customers or user base happy, and they will come back to you. What about you, Haya?
So I think in terms of the creative industry, the biggest support is like obviously friends and family, and also there are various new companies that have started, especially like they were created especially for the creative industry, which is an industry that is very undernourished, but it's a very large industry here in Qatar. For example, we have the M7, which is a new company based in Msharab, or there is Fashion Trust Arabia, who basically have yearly competitions, and they give out grants and they give out mentorships. And these companies are a huge support for like creative brands such as mine and many others. And I think, yeah, that's what I can think of now. But yeah, basically.
Okay, so make sure that you do all the research, because you will find these small pockets of growing communities who you can work with and get aligned with. Rami, can you give us some advice? Can you tell us about who can support our young entrepreneurs?
Yes, of course. I think honestly, one of the things that have been the most beneficial to us in Bonaco, and I think still we benefit from like to this day, is just the network of entrepreneurs. So like get yourself immersed into the network. We sometimes, like, honestly, this is something that we do ourselves as well, which is we kind of like neglect the importance of talking to other entrepreneurs, to like, running our ideas by them. And I think that's something that's very important, along, of course, like all the institutions that support entrepreneurs that, either people have already mentioned or I think are pretty easy to find, but definitely value like the other entrepreneurs around. I've learned from like Haytham, for example, and I continue like to this day, I still learn something from all the other panelists here, and it's just one of the main assets that you can benefit from in like the startup ecosystem in general.
Thank you so much for your advice. Now it is your time, our audience, to ask us your questions, to engage with us, whether you're watching this panel through Facebook or whether you're with us on Zoom. Send us your questions. We'd be happy to answer them. Send us your thoughts. We'd be more than delighted to engage with you. And do we have any questions, Mrs. Yil?
Thank you so much, our dear panelists. Thank you so much, Khansa, for this really inspiring discussion. In fact, most of the participants on Zoom and people who are watching us on Facebook, all of them, they are really enjoying the discussion. And I feel because they are showing likes, they're so much interested in hearing from the story of each one of you, our dear speakers. One of the questions that is kind of recurrent amongst like young people who are thinking of starting their own business, and feel free to answer this question, any one of you who's interested, is like, if anyone's thinking of starting their own business, which one is better, to start from scratch or join some trainings or workshops? Would those trainings and workshops have any impact on the development, or shall they start and do the work and learn from what goes on in the work and whatever they go through throughout all the processing? And I see also Hussam raising his hands. So Hussam, feel free to share your question in the chat box or unmute yourself if you would like to share your question.
Hi everyone, my name is Hussam Saleh. I'm a second-year manufacturing engineering student, and I study in the US, but my hometown is here in Qatar. And I had one question for all the entrepreneurs here, especially those who initiated their businesses while being in university. How did you develop that balance of doing school and working on developing your business ideas? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Haya, can you get us started with this answer?
Yeah, so starting your own business, being a student, is very difficult. It's not impossible, it's just a matter of time management, really. If you allot your time for studying and for university and allot your time for creating your startup, then it's not an impossible task at all. It's only a matter of time management and passion, really, because if you're passionate about it, then no amount of inconvenience can basically take you away from creating your startup.
Thank you.
Would you like to add on to it, Hassan?
No, Haya pretty much summed it up.
All right, do we have any more questions? Because we'd be happy to answer them, and our panelists will have excellent advice.
I'll just add to what was said.
Yes,
to
go ahead.
Sam about, because my first business started as a student. I think the best thing to remember when you start a business as a student is that you're not gonna build Amazon, right? Like, appreciate that you're a student and you're gonna build something on the side. So build something small, build just an MVP, a basic thing, the most minimum thing that you can start and call a business or an actualized idea. And then if it gains traction, you can build it later on. But as a student, build something small that works, prove that it works. And then if it works, then make it your full thing. Even if you didn't finish university, honestly, you don't have to finish university. But if you have something that works, go after it. And there was the first question that was asked about, do we, someone wanted to take trainings or directly go to, I think that was the question. I would say if you don't have previous experience, trainings never hurt. They're just trainings are general, and whatever you have is probably very specific. So try to learn from it. Go to trainings, sure. Try to see what you can get from it, and not everything applies to you. Not a lot of things in business are, like hard rules. Not everything is by the book. So learn the foundations from it. And if there are no trainings, or the trainings are not great, or they don't match you, find these kind of things that you need to learn, the foundations of it. And you ask yourself, for example, you want to start to build an app, you ask someone or go to a training that can help you, or just go on Google and find on YouTube and see what are the resources. But teach yourself meanwhile. And then when you build something, things are going to come from trial and error too.
Thank you. Ms. Asil, do we have any more questions?
Thank you so much. Thanks.
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to
Go ahead.
to the first question as well. Honestly, I don't think waiting for trainings or anything is necessary. I mean, while, you know, like Haytham mentioned, trainings are useful, of course, definitely 100%. There's so much like resources online now that you don't really need to wait for trainings happening, like, you know, in a specific institute or something that you can actually apply for and get accepted to. So many articles, so much content is available online, whether like, you know, for free on YouTube or, you know, like articles on Medium or whatever that will kind of like explain, you know, and you can even like cherry pick the specific content that solves whatever it is, or like, you know, that answers whatever questions you have. So I definitely don't think you should wait for any trainings or anything. If you have an idea, go ahead with it. You can definitely learn, you know, just looking for stuff online. So yeah, best of luck.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions, Ms. Asil?
Thank you so much. No, that's it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you were listening to us on YouTube or Zoom, the US Embassy in Qatar has a lot of other sessions like this on the Facebook page, streamed on the YouTube channel. And we will have many more sessions like this. So keep an eye out. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us. I had an amazing time listening to your stories, listening to your advice, and I wish we had more time for a lot more questions. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Khansan. Thank you for all the panelists.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.